Hello everyone, this is John, bringing you the latest news from the British political stage. Today, we're diving into two significant stories that highlight the growing discontent among Britons towards their political leaders. On one side, we have Keir Starmer doubling down on nanny state interventions, from bans on outdoor smoking to his reluctance to address the country's declining birth rate. On the other, the annual party conferences are in full swing, a spectacle where politicians, lobbyists and activists gather behind closed doors, far away from the public eye, to shape the policies of tomorrow. Before we jump into the details, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more updates on British politics. Now, let's get into it. Keir Starmer's nanny state, a bold vision or overreach? Sir Keir Starmer has been making waves recently with a string of public health measures that some are calling the height of nanny state politics. His announcements include banning television adverts for junk food before 9 p.m, outlawing energy drinks for children under 16, and even introducing supervised toothbrushing in schools. And if that wasn't enough, the Labour leader has also voiced his support for banning outdoor smoking and hinted at a crackdown on disposable vapes. These interventions have sparked debate across the political spectrum. Starmer insists that these measures are vital for the public's health, particularly to combat childhood obesity. "I know some prevention measures will be controversial," he said, "but I'm prepared to be bold, even in the face of loud opposition." But critics accuse him of overstepping and attempting to control people's lives. Former Tory MP Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg was quick to attack Starmer for what he called hypocrisy, pointing out that while the Labour leader claims not to want to dictate how people live, his policies suggest otherwise. And then there's the matter of Britain's declining birth rate, a topic Starmer has sidestepped despite growing concern. The Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, recently released a report warning that the UK population could soon start shrinking, jeopardising the economy as the workforce ages. While Starmer has acknowledged the issue, he's been clear that he doesn't intend to intervene with a birth plan. "I'm not going to tell people how to live their lives, and that includes dictating whether they should or shouldn't have children," Starmer said. But for many critics, this stance feels like another missed opportunity to address a growing problem. Former Cabinet Minister Miriam Cates pointed out that falling birth rates present a fundamental economic issue that no amount of local business plans will fix. Now, let's turn our attention to the annual political party conferences, a staple of British politics and, frankly, a spectacle unto itself. Every September, as the leaves start to turn, politicians, lobbyists and activists from across the political spectrum flock to these conferences, supposedly to hash out ideas and prepare for the year ahead. However, the reality behind these conferences is far more insular and elite. While the party leaders may give grand speeches for the cameras, the real business takes place behind closed doors, where lobbyists and power brokers cut deals that will shape the political agenda for months to come. Quentin Letts, a political columnist, describes it as a first-class railway carriage of the political elite, fluttering off to four-star hotels, schmoozing over canapés, and making pacts over warm Chardonnay. The Labour conference, currently underway in Liverpool, is a prime example. Delegates, trade union leaders, and party officials meet in private to discuss strategy, while Labour's frontbenchers are preparing for Starmer's big keynote speech. David Lammy's recent announcement on banning some arms sales to Israel is already gaining traction, and many expect Lammy to receive a standing ovation. But beyond the speeches and media coverage, the real question is, who's influencing whom? Conferences have always been as much about networking as about policy. From the old-school Blackpool conferences of the 1980s, where working-class delegates would mingle with MPs over pints of Guinness, to today's polished corporate-sponsored events in Manchester, the essence remains the same. Political deals are made in the shadows. And this year is no different. Lobbyists from big corporations, banks, accountancy firms, defence contractors, and even charities are present, vying for influence. For example, a 9-foot-wide stall at the Labour conference costs an eye-watering £15,000, not including the extra fees, for luxuries like an electric plug and plastic chairs. While the public listens to speeches in the main hall, the real decisions are being shaped by private sector players who, some argue, have more sway than the voters themselves. Keir Starmer's position as Labour leader is becoming more precarious with each passing week. His recent policies, including the nanny state measures, have not gone down well with certain segments of the electorate, particularly older voters who resent being told how to live their lives, and his reluctance to address the issue of Britain's declining birth rate could alienate even more voters. At the same time, Starmer faces internal pressure from within his own party. The Labour base, traditionally focused on issues of social justice and workers' rights, is starting to question his centrist approach. Activists and union leaders attending the conference in Liverpool are reportedly growing restless, particularly over Labour's lack of a clear, unified stance on key issues like Brexit and economic reform. The TUC conference, held earlier this month, also showcased the growing divide within the Labour movement. While delegates engaged in debates over the future direction of the party, some attendees were more interested in the free-flowing drinks and seaside holiday vibe than in addressing the serious policy issues at hand. As Letts pointed out, many delegates treat it as a 4-day holiday bonus and knees up at the seaside during a working week. The big question now is whether Starmer can unify his party and present a coherent vision to the electorate. With the general election looming, Labour's internal fractures are becoming more apparent, and if Starmer doesn't manage to pull things together soon, his leadership could face serious challenges. As news of Starmer's latest interventions and the excesses of the party conferences hit the headlines, public disillusionment is mounting. Many voters are growing frustrated with the lack of genuine representation. While politicians rub shoulders with lobbyists and corporate donors, ordinary Britons are left feeling disconnected from the political process. Social media platforms have been flooded with reactions to Starmer's nanny state policies, with many accusing him of being out of touch. One particularly viral tweet reads, "Starmer says he doesn't want to tell us how to live, but then bans half the things we enjoy. What next? Supervised dinner time for adults?" Meanwhile, the party conferences have done little to restore faith in the political class. As one commentator noted, these conferences are a reminder of how little input the public actually has in shaping policy. It's all done behind closed doors, far away from the scrutiny of voters. The public's growing discontent is perhaps best summed up by the words of a man spotted leaving the Labour conference hall. "I can't take another one of these speeches. It's all hot air and no action." That sentiment seems to be shared by an increasing number of Britons who are tired of the political theatre and yearn for real change. As Keir Starmer prepares to take the stage at the Labour Party conference, the stakes couldn't be higher. His recent nanny state measures and reluctance to address key issues like the birth rate have raised questions about his leadership. Meanwhile, the party conference spectacle, a symbol of elite political deal-making, serves as a stark reminder of how disconnected the political class has become from the public. So, what's next for British politics? Will Starmer be able to regain the trust of disillusioned voters, or is he on the verge of losing control of his party and his political future? Only time will tell. What do you think? Are Starmer's public health measures necessary, or are they an overreach? And how do you feel about the annual party conferences? Do they serve a real purpose, or are they just political theatre? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on this developing story.